To D&D players, what's the best moment you've had in a game? Part 1. Had a wizard with a pet frog. He carried the fucking frog around with him and would occasionally get a little weird with it. Real intimate with this frog, if you know what I mean. He liked this frog. One night we get stopped by some highwaymen on the road. Their leader approaches the party and tells us to lay down our weapons or die, and points a sword at the wizard. The wizard reaches out and casts a spell to banish this guy to another dimension temporarily, while simultaneously sleight of handing out his damn frog. He holds the frog up and goes, "Put your weapons down! I'm the greatest wizard in the world, and I've turned your leader into a frog. Put your shit down, or I strangle this frog and do the same to the rest of you." Then he looks at us and whispers, "Wrap this shit up quick. I really don't want to kill this fucking frog." I was the DM, and one of our players pulled something off that turned the entire campaign on its ear and started a whole new campaign. To make a long story short, one of our players had met and married a female NPC. She then became part of the party, but had very limited skills. The party had to be in 2 places at once, so they decided the NPC and the rogue would go to this nearby town for a meeting they were set to be at, and the rest of the party would go free an ally of theirs that had been captured. The rogue ended up selling the NPC wife to a slaver, then told the group that they had been attacked and she had been taken after he was knocked out. The party rallied together to go get her back. They rescued the girl and she told them the truth. The rogue ran and the party went after him. Both sides had allies, so it started a war between them, but ultimately the group had to come back together to face the main villain. After they defeated him, the rogue left and the rest of the party gathered up the treasure and went to an inn to celebrate. The rogue, however, had planned for this. He poisoned the barrel of ale, killing most of the party and the other people in the pub and seriously injuring those who did not die. With the party dead and dying, he gathered up the treasure and left. In the last campaign I played, my tiefling fighter was being eaten alive by a group of giant birds, but was spit out and left to die in their nest. While the rest of the party were isolated on a group of stone pillars a ways away, our dragonborn sorcerer attempted to save my character's life by throwing a red potion like a football aiming for my character's mouth. He rolled a nat 20 and the potion footballed into my mouth, and a crack in the glass caused the potion to heal me. I'll always be fond of utilizing a goblin colony's lesser intelligence against them. With a few wizards and a very charismatic rogue, me, we were able to convince these goblins that I was a god seeking their help with a mission. In return, I was to give them powerful weapons required to defeat the land goblins that these cave dwellers hated so much. So imagine, with the use of thaumaturgy, silent image, ghost sound, etc., a 100-foot black-robed figure rising from fog in a flash of light and yelling at them with a voice that caused the cave to rumble. Fires flared and dimmed with my words, and these goblins were putty in my hands. With a little skill and a lot of luck, we managed to convince them, once we ended the spells, that my now normal-sized 5-foot-some rogue girl was the human form of the powerful god that just spoke to them, and they listened. We then went on to siege a town that was overrun with villains. This was done with copious amounts of alchemist's fire strapped to each goblin as we catapulted them over city walls, causing major distraction wherever they landed. These goblins truly believed that this was their path to the ultimate goal of being the one ruling goblin colony, and all the better because at this point our team still despised those little guys, but more on that later. Ultimately, my character died in the onslaught, struck down by our own weapons, 12 alchemists' fires at once in a closed room. We had these goblins believing I was their god so strongly that in our nice little world, I actually did become a god of the cave goblins. My character awoke from death in her own ethereal plane, aptly named Gobhala, with her main goblin advisor, Gobgob, by her side. To this day, whenever I'm DMing a game, even with totally different people, I'll always try to slip in a small tidbit about a black-robed goddess that players may or may not pick up on. It never means anything, but it's the way of keeping my very first Pathfinder character close to my heart. Not a single moment, but a feeling. Days after a session, a player made the offhand comment that things are going really well and they are having a lot of fun. That's it. They've had such a great time that it comes back to them later and moves them to comment on it. Those moments where the players are laughing so hard they forget to actually play because of their running commentary on how the quest is unfolding, that's one of the big ones. I don't interrupt them, but sit back and watch them. Yeah, I got months of material written up that I want to get to, but this is what it's all about. These moments. The goat? Forget manticores, the goats in this area are what you gotta watch out for. I'm not immature, I'm 17 and a half. You're trying to start dirt on fire, it's not going to work. We should have an affair. Roll to see if we make out. Oh, with 2, I guess we don't. Our group has had 3 DMs now. One moved, another just wasn't enjoying it, and then I gave it a shot, and things really clicked. I got my brother-in-law, my wife, my college buddy, and my long-lost middle school friend all at my table. It's literally the best thing in my life right now because it's bringing some of my favorite people together to really just sit around and have as much fun as we can. It's like those images you see of characters around a table bantering, arguing, plotting, counting coin, sort of Rockwellian, but in fantasy, only it's happening in reality right in front of me. I don't drink nearly as much because I gotta stay on top of initiative and plot. I'm shuffling through papers. My wife cooks everyone a dish, a pot steaming in the background. She loves watching them mow down the food, taking seconds and thirds. My longtime friend goes on and on about his life. It broke me out of my shell in grade school, and we've reconnected through this game. My brother-in-law pages through the books, pointing out neat things he reads. Yes, we know it already, but it's great to hear him excited. My college buddy tries fishing his dye out of his beer bottle. He wasn't sure it would fit in there, but it did. I just sit back and watch. It's perfect. I love D&D, and I love my life. So we were playing 3rd edition D&D in the mid-2000s, and I decided I wanted to drag the poor players through the Tomb of Horrors. Not the 3rd edition reissue, but the original one that I fell in love with as an early teen in the early 80s, written in the late 70s by Gygax himself. If you're not familiar, it is a ridiculous dungeon crawl designed to kill characters and be more fun for the referee than for the players. The boss at the end, Acererak the Demi-Lich, is stupidly hard to defeat and has a save or have your soul sucked out of your body attack every round. Just to spice things up, one player, Derek the Cleric, requested that the old-style AD&D rules for which the module had been written should be in effect for the duration of the adventure, to the extent that it was convenient to do so. Sure, why not, I said. Oops, but more on that later. The players consisted of an old friend of mine who knew the dungeon from back in the day, Derek, a younger friend just learning the game, and 2 other experienced gamers I had recruited online because my 2 friends did not a party make. Recruit number 1, we'll call her Patty, was a nice girl about my age I still game with to this day, along with Derek the Cleric. But this story is about recruit number 2. Darren was rather older than us, late 30s, and had been playing D&D since the late 70s. He was one of those players who had bad habits, borderline min-maxing, questionable die rolls, but not so bad that we couldn't cope, and we really needed another body to round out the party, so we put up with it. So, fast forward all the way to the end of the dungeon. Yep, they had survived the ridiculous traps. Indeed, they had killed the stupid boss Acererak himself. Now it was time to inventory and requisition the treasure. Derek pointed out that I had agreed we were under AD&D rules. He apparently remembered that the treasure specified a magic staff would be present, but not what it was, and was hoping to score the party a Staff of the Magi. Again, for those unfamiliar, that's essentially the be-all and end-all of magic items, and only finds its way into the hands of player characters if the GM is foolish or if it's a silly Monty Hall campaign. The only one that ever showed up in a published official adventure was in fact right there in the Tomb of Horrors. And that one was broken and unfixable, just to tease the players with what they should not have. Well, shit. Now I have to determine what kind of staff it is among the treasure. There wasn't a chart that just only listed staves for me to roll on, so I made one on the fly, made the stupid Staff of the Magi harder to land on with the die roll than any of the other stuff, and I still fucking rolled it. Naturally, it went to the mage in the party. Great. Now Darren the min-maxing wizard has a fucking Staff of the Magi, and the dude is freaking out. He is so happy. He's making plans to seize control of a small country and rule with an iron fist, and he now has the firepower to do it. Then, out of the blue, Derek the Cleric says, I cast Resurrection on the shattered skull of the Demi-Lich. What? No, seriously, what? What? Yeah, as a good cleric, I believe everyone can be redeemed, and this guy is probably no different. To be fair, that was, in fact, how he'd been playing his character throughout the campaign. Lots of diplomacy and non-lethal/subdual attacks to talk people around. Shit, okay. Now, Resurrection brings you back at full power, combat ready, of course. We roll initiative. The newly rezzed 20th level cleric, 20th level wizard goes first and promptly casts Time Stop. He follows up his Time Stop with Mass Domination. Now the time is stopped and only he can take any actions. He then uses Detect Magic to divine who is and who among the party is not under the influence of a powerful enchantment spell and learns that everyone but the rogue botched their save on the Mass Domination. Before his time stop can run out, he casts Power Word Kill on the rogue. Now he can safely allow the time stop to run out because everyone else is under his mass domination. He politely thanked the cleric for resurrecting him and equally politely requested that the wizard hand over his Staff of the Magi. While Darren didn't want to, I reminded him that domination isn't suggestion, it's domination. Darren, scowling, indicated that he hands the staff over. The Demi-Lich Acererak then thanked them all very politely indeed, proceeded to lay a mass quest on them to go away and leave him the hell alone for a year and a day while he reset, rebuilt, and relocated his lair, and the party did exactly that. At least he let them live, as he had more important things to be doing. Darren is in shock. 25 years of gaming, he says, with good, competent groups. And I have never even seen a staff of the Magi in legit open roleplay. I had one. I had it in my hands. It was the pinnacle of my D&D playing career. And as soon as I had it, it was gone. He went home and he never came back again. I intimidated a pile of wood into becoming a boat. I was playing a half-orc fighter whose backstory was that he was a carpenter before a fit of unstoppable rage led him to smash every piece of wooden furniture in his village. God damn it, dude. Why is this shit so funny? He was ostracized after that and took up adventuring as a way to pay the bills and get out some of that pent-up frustration. Anyway, the party comes to a river that we need to cross, but the rogue mage that we're chasing has destroyed the bridge. I ask if I can search the area for wood, nails, pitch, etc. I roll investigation, find a decent amount of stuff that wasn't totally blown to smithereens by the mage. Well, I roll to use my carpenter's tools to use all that spare crap and make a boat. I rolled a nat 1 and break my tools. My character is so infuriated by this that he starts yelling at the pile of miscellaneous debris. I'm talking the full spiel here. He insults the wood's mother, questions the nail's manhood, the whole shebang. I ask if I can roll intimidation. I roll a nat 20 with a +4 proficiency skill bonus. The wood is so terrified of the angry green carpenter with the broken tools that they form themselves into a boat. The party sails across the river, and our campaign continues unimpeded.